On imom.com, we share ideas, insight, and inspiration. We do all that here too, by sharing the best kind of stories, mom stories. We're all at different ages and stages, but one thing we have in common is that we're striving, and sometimes struggling, to love our children well. It's the iMom Podcast. Welcome to this week's episode of the iMom Podcast. I'm Abby with Chloe and Megan. We've talked about AI and cheating in school in a previous episode 96. But in the time between that episode and now, we have seen the uses of AI expand in the workplace, at home, and in schools. And so now the question isn't if kids should use AI in school, because it is happening. Kids are using AI in school. But instead, in today's episode, we're going to talk about how AI will impact our kids' education. And if you're the kind of person who doesn't like thinking about scary or overwhelming things, take heart. The impact of AI on education is good in so many ways. In today's episode, like I said, Chloe and Megan and I and our guest, Mary Jo Wise. Mary Jo is a mom of two, and she has done extensive research on the topic of AI and specifically how it impacts kids and families. And so, Mary Jo, we're so glad you're here. Thank you again for being with us and sharing your wisdom.
Hi, of course. I'm glad to be back.
And this is the third episode in a 3-part series, so be sure to listen to the previous 2 to hear more really great info about AI. Now, Mary Jo, I know that when you and I first started talking about AI, and how it impacts our jobs as writers, you seemed a little bit hesitant and a little bit skeptical about it. How has your attitude toward AI in schools, especially as a former teacher, how has it changed between, from when you started the writing process and now?
Well, when you and I were talking about it, I think I was kind of at the beginning of my research or kind of into it a little bit. So, I'm still a little reluctant to use it in what I do, which is to write. I mean, I think it can help with generating some ideas and some title ideas, but I feel like inevitably I don't really like what it gives me for like a final form or anything for a title or something. So mostly it's like an idea generator for me. I think that the human touch with writing in particular is something that can't be replaced. Especially if it's just what you do for a living, because you have your own voice and personality and all that. But going back a little further before that, I remember reading my first article about ChatGPT, and I think it was December of 22. And I thought, oh, robots, this is just wild. I didn't really understand it. I didn't, I was kind of curious, but I just kind of let it slip for the next, I don't know, year. And then when this project kind of came up a year ago, I kind of dug in, and I kept an open mind, because with new tech, it's exciting. A lot of people are excited. You kind of catch the bug a little bit, but I just wasn't sure really what it could do or what it could do to benefit families or kids. But the more I've gotten into it and learned about it, I have really positive feelings towards it, that it could really help kids in schools, help kids just kind of catch up if they're falling behind, inspire kids maybe who are ahead. I think it has a lot of possibilities.
And you're a former teacher, so you definitely have a unique perspective on this.
Mary Jo, so being a former teacher, have you heard currently how teachers can feel about it? Is there a consensus on using it in the classroom, or are they pretty reluctant to adopt it?
Well, I'll just say firstly, from my experience, I taught high school, and when I was teaching, I spent hours planning lessons, grading tests and quizzes, and essays, and coming up with lesson plans and coming up with worksheets. And I think that this possibility of using AI tools for teachers, it's like having your own personal assistant to help you come up with all of these great resources. And I think teachers, maybe who've been around for years, maybe might not need it as much as newer teachers to generate new stuff. I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm just guessing. But it's something that I think if educators wanted to get on board and learn more about it, they might find that AI can help kind of get rid of some of the tasks that they don't want to do, or maybe they don't want to spend as much time doing like grading stuff or providing that instant feedback when AI can do it. And then teachers can go around the classroom and talk to kids individually and make those connections and have the energy to do it, because really teachers wear so many hats and they just do so much for kids that it takes up a ton of energy. And if you had a helper like this AI, like an AI assistant, I say try it out, see if it can make things a little easier.
Yeah, let's talk about some of the benefits for both teachers and students. I've heard about AI being useful in helping kids not fall behind. What do you know about how to use it in that way?
So there are pilot programs. This past spring, Khan Academy is a nonprofit, and it was a lot of school districts use it. My kids use it in their school district, but they were piloting a new AI assistant called Conmigo, and that AI tutor would work, for example, with each kid at their station in on the problem or whatever question they're on, whatever subject it is, and kind of go at that child's pace. If they had questions, they could ask the assistant questions, not necessarily the answer, because Conmigo will not give you the answer, but it will kind of help explain concepts to the student and kind of lead them in the way to help them learn at their pace. So potentially these tools can help a kid at their own pace, meet them where they are. And I'm imagining, kids are like they were when we were young. Like if you finish your assignment, you're going to sit there and kind of talk to your neighbor and kind of wait until your teacher comes over and check your work or something like that. But if you're working with an AI assistant and you have something you have to do, or you're trying to get to a certain place in your learning, there could potentially not be any downtime. You'll still be going, and your teacher could be receiving on her or his end real-time feedback of what you're doing and how you're doing. And the student in turn could get that real-time feedback as well, and maybe go back and make corrections and go back and spend a little more time on whatever it was that maybe they were stumped on or didn't get correct. So
as opposed to having to wait for the teacher to come around and look at the problem and say, this isn't correct, and then working through it then, or not even getting it back until the next day.
Exactly. And I think because of that, there's going to be an increase in productivity in the classroom. So they're going to get more done, hopefully have more learning take place and get that feedback right away. So I think that sounds really good to me.
Mary Jo, for the mom who's listening to that and thinking, okay, so the robots are teaching my kid now, what kind of research maybe offers a counter argument to that?
Yeah. Oh, I know. I mean, I think as a mom too, I just think, oh gosh, not another computer program and another screen.
Yeah.
And yeah, I totally get that. But I think that teachers are not going to be replaced. First of all, kids still have that connection with the teacher. And when you have that special connection with the teacher, that's when you learn more, right? Everybody, think back to your favorite teacher when you were growing up. You probably weren't marveling over her vast knowledge, right? You probably connected with her on a human level, right? And, that is what helps a kid be successful, making that connection with their teacher, I think. And, teachers are going to be there still teaching empathy and morals and, the social aspects of growing up. And sometimes chatbots are just going to be or chat programs or AI programs are going to be a springboard for a group activity. So maybe you start on the screen, but then you move into your group work. So teachers aren't going to be replaced. They're still going to be integral to the education system. The AI tools are just going to enhance and augment learning.
Yeah, and I would add to that, Mary Jo, I completely agree with all that, that it's also going to help set them up for the future, how they will use it in their job in the workplace going forward, because it's not going to go away. It's just going to get more and more advanced. And a few members of our team are actually attending the HubSpot conference this fall, and I'm super excited about it because when we attended last year, this generative AI chat GPT had just kind of hit the market and was gaining a lot of popularity and traction. And so I'm super interested to hear what they say about it this year. And hopefully they'll talk a little bit about how it'll impact kids in education going forward. But I'm really excited to see what they announce this fall. And Chloe and I will report back because we're going to it together. But I think, to your point, it's great for them to get experience with it and start utilizing it at a younger age so that they do know how to utilize it as a tool in their careers going forward.
I totally agree. It's a tool, like Megan said, and it's going to be something that is going to be with kids throughout their education careers into the university, college age, into those classrooms. I'm seeing it already there. Professors who are getting on board and beyond in jobs. Definitely.
So let's talk about some of the concerns that parents have. We did talk back in episode 96 about cheating and whether AI encourages cheating. And this is, of course, talking about at the middle school to high school level. Mm-hmm. We keep saying, like, to our kids, well, think critically. If you use AI to help you generate ideas for a paper or whatever, you have to think critically. Like, are we expecting too much from our kids? Are we telling them to use AI and then expect them to use other parts of their brain that are just not developed to use it wisely?
I think that AI tools are going to help kids think more critically, because sure, you can get on one of these chatbots and you can get an answer, but that's not really going to have real learning take place. And for teachers, being able to reshape what education looks like in the classroom, kind of change how to assess students' learning, there's going to be a needed switch or a change to really assess that learning. I know that my kids have had homework that's like, okay, provide definitions, these like, science terms, go home and do that. And it's real easy to look it up on a chatbot, but chatbots, as we said in the last episode, sometimes hallucinate and they get things wrong. So thinking critically, okay, I need to look up what mitochondria is and maybe double check this on another site to make sure I'm getting the right answer, because, you can't turn in the wrong stuff. You can't rely on just one thing.
Well, and that's a great point, because it's like an immediate natural consequence of not checking your work is that you think, well, this chat GPT gave me this answer and I wrote it down. I didn't think anything, to check it, and you get it wrong. And so you're like, well, now I guess I know I need to check from here going forward.
Right. Yeah. And I think teachers too are going to start switching to more oral assessments, maybe defending a position in the classroom, like verbal arguments or verbal just quizzes or something like that, because then the kid has to rely on their knowledge. They can't just submit a paper or some answers, or they're going to be writing things. Maybe you go back to writing, on paper, the old fashioned way, because if you're sitting there on your computer, it's real easy to open up another tab and consult AI. Or
they need to start working out their hands, because my kids are like, I can't hold a pencil any longer.
So Mary Jo, I have this fear because the book, The Anxious Generation, has really kind of gone viral and taken off. And it talks about kids' overuse of screens and staring at screens all day and social media and whatnot, and how that has increased anxiety, increased a number of negatives for kids. So but at the same time, I love AI and I really want them to get used to using it. So how do we balance that fear of overuse of screen time versus wanting to get them to have that experience in using AI?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great question. I've thought about these things too, with screens just ubiquitous now in our culture. And yeah, I don't want my kids looking at a screen all the time. But I think that AI tools fill a different need than social media does for kids. It fits into a different box, and the result, the output that you get from AI tools is different in how it affects people than I think social media. From what I understand, a lot of the anxious generation is kind of talking about like getting on phones in a way that fills that loneliness need, or maybe you're looking at social media and you're just feeling down because you see all your friends are up to stuff. So I think the AI aspect with chatbots and tools, they're going to be more of an assistant for the things that you are going after in your life, or maybe it's I want to learn more about such and such a subject, or I'm going to go look at colleges this weekend. Give me ideas for what I can do in this town while I'm there. Or maybe, hey, I'm going to go out with some friends this weekend, but I don't have a clue what we're going to do. What are some ideas? We don't have a ton of money for those things.
So taking what AI gives you and taking it offline so that you're not continuously staring at a screen is kind of what you're saying.
Yeah. And also you're not going to get that response, I think, that you get from social media that can make you feel bad. It's
Right.
just going to be kind of like this like smart buddy that you have that can kind of help you just do things better, more efficiently.
So, Mary Jo, one thing that I'm curious about as well, because my husband is an attorney in the tech space, and so he is always looking at this and kind of wary of it, is data privacy. So, talk to me about that. Is there any legality rules around what these chatbots do with all the information that they're taking in, with people chatting with them, asking them questions, whatnot?
Yeah, whatever you put into a chatbot can be used to train the chatbot, and it gives data and information to the developers who own that chatbot. But there are, like on ChatGPT, you can turn off the sharing portion of your conversations. You can tell them you don't want to give your conversations to them to use to train. But things like your name and your location and some of that other privacy or personal information can be shared. But I did read just this week that like government bodies in both the US and Europe are starting to regulate AI. So I think it was Google that got rid of their privacy board, because like complying with privacy is becoming more of a legal issue rather than one that's involving responsible AI. So it is starting to move more towards government regulations. And that's a good thing, because then individual companies are not all, left to do whatever the heck they want with the information that, governments are starting to play a role.
Mary Jo, how can parents cooperate with AI in school instead of push back against it? What are some things they can do?
I think most of the time we fear what we don't know. And I think educating yourself on AI is something that, is the best thing you can do for yourself and your kids. And I just kind of speaking from personal experience, when my daughter and I started her educational journey in kindergarten, she has food allergies, and I had to meet with the school about that. And they were very receptive to talking to me and learning about it and working with me. And I think that gave me the encouragement to keep going and having these conversations about keeping her safe with foods. I think it's the same thing with AI. Ask the questions of your teacher, your principal. Don't just think about it or talk to friends, or just, bring it up if you have questions. Go to the PTO meetings. Listen in if you're not one that wants to really speak up. Just kind of get in there and listen. Our school board also has open meetings in our district, and you can go and you can listen to what they're talking about. I know our school board is having conversations about AI and how to integrate it and to teach teachers how to use it in the classroom. So it's been in our local newspaper. So I think just being aware, whether it's online or in person, of what's happening around you, and just being present in your community and your school district is going to help you take the fear out of this new tech.
And I think using it ourselves as moms, I think that's the biggest takeaway that I've learned. Is I was afraid of it as well. And I just started getting into it and realized what a cool, fun tool it can be.
Yeah, exactly.
Mary Jo, thank you so much for all the research you did, all the great writing that you did. There's a lot of great resources on imom.com and allprodad.com for moms and dads to navigate this with their kids. And like Megan said, you don't have to be afraid. It's a wonderful tool. Like you've been reminding us, it's something that can strengthen your relationship with your kids, give you opportunities to talk. And so we're excited to just kind of walk this journey with the other moms. So thanks again.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It was a lot of fun talking about AI with you guys.
And thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to the iMom podcast. iMom is the motherhood program of the nonprofit organization Family First. Along with our fatherhood program, All Pro Dad, we exist to help you love your family well. Subscribe to our daily email, the iMom Minute, by going to imom.com/subscribe and get tons of great ideas, insight, and inspiration. The iMom podcast is hosted by me, Abby Watts, along with Susan Merrill, Megan Tigner, and Chloe Blumenthal.